pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. There's one that I wanted to post it, but it wouldn't just give it to me. It gave me another one, but it was okay because it recites the Pledge of Allegiance, which I believe in, and which all Americans who love this country should believe and recite also. And learn to memorize this Pledge of Allegiance. It's not only patriotic, it's inspiring. There's a lot of news, just in case I'm banned or I'm blocked. I was kind of like threatened yesterday. I received a message from YouTube that there were people offended for what I was posting on YouTube. And I wouldn't doubt if they censor me or they block me today. So if they do, go to my blog. Eduardo Rodriguez, I pledge allegiance to the flag. Just remember the Pledge of Allegiance and my name, Eduardo Rodriguez. You write that down and it'll show up, my blog. There's a lot of news I post. As a matter of fact, I didn't even post down the writings because I more or less figure out that in the writings, they're included in the videos. So I said, well, what's the use to me to post the writings, which takes me longer, and the videos is quicker? Because at night, I post them in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and my Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And when I go to if I don't forget, I just have to deal with them to the blog. I just post them at the blog, which is I pledge allegiance to the flag, my blog. And there I put out the news, and mainly it's the same thing that's coming. The writing is coming out in the videos, the majority. But if it's not, I rather go with the videos, which is less work, and it takes me less time than trying to copy the writings and then putting on my blog and news thought, which is one of the best, the most complete in icons to share, only has Facebook and Twitter to share. The rest, I don't know if there's more. There might be more out there. I was doing it with Tea Party. Tea Party once was great. I didn't have to basically do anything but just post like United with Israel, where I can post everything, and it's quick. If it was that quick, no problem. But it's not that quick. They only have Facebook and Twitter. Then I have to copy there, put it in my blog, and then I have to go to my telephone and to pass it on LinkedIn because I don't have LinkedIn. So I just decided on the videos. I think it's better, and like I said, I waste less time. For those who believe that in communist Cuba, who idealize the memory of Jose Marti, that he was a communist, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. That Jose Marti wasn't a communist, and to prove it, I got more writings about him. I'm going to try to until they last because it's not that there are many. I mean, it's not like they're how you call it, thousands of them quotes. They're just a bunch, but not that many. And I'll try to do as many as I can to open the mind of the liberals who believe Jose Marti was a communist. No, he wasn't. He was a true patriot. He was a hero. He was a brilliant man beyond his time. Saw things and understood things because he read the manifesto of Marx and Engels, and he criticized it. And he criticized it. He read it and he analyzed it. The guy was so brilliant. He analyzed it, and based on that, he gave his opinions. And look what he says here. I'm going to show you. Okay, it says here, I feel like They murder my son every time a person is deprived of his right to ponder. Now you think of that one. This guy was so brilliant. Maybe people won't understand what he said. But I'm going to put it in simple words. I translated it. The word ponder wasn't in that. It was another word. But I think this word sounds a lot better in the sentences, the way he wrote things, that I use the word ponder. What he's trying to say that he feels like they're murdering his son, a son, every time they deprive a person of the right to think. And in communists, you can't think. You don't have that right. If you go against the precepts or the rules and regulations of an oppressive system like in communism or Islam too, in Cuba, they will send you to prison. Or worse, in North Korea, they'll kill you. They'll send you to a concentration camp. Maybe they let you live, they'll send you to a concentration camp until the third generation, where they basically, they'll kill you, starve you to death, and beat you to a pulp until you just want to die. Or you attempt to escape and they'll kill you. In Islam, it's the same thing. If you think differently, if you want to express a feeling that's contrary to their oppressive rule of thought, you're dead. Your death is secure. They'll send a fatwa, they'll send somebody, some depraved and crazed lunatic to come and kill you. I wouldn't doubt someday it'll happen to me. But I gotta live with that fear, because I'm not gonna let them conquer me. I'm gonna keep on doing this until I die, till the day I die. They're trying to conquer the United States. They're trying to conquer everywhere they step in. Why? Because they want to create a caliphate, and in that caliphate, a woman is rights are level to that of a worse than a pet. A pet can roam. A woman doesn't have that right, unless she has a permission. A dog has more rights, because they can roam around, they can eat anywhere, they can visit a neighbor or something, they can piss anywhere. I'm not saying that humans should do that. No, I mean I'm telling you the comparing rights. That's all. I'm not, even though I'm exaggerating a little bit by the piss or urinate, excuse me. To put it more words more sophisticated. Well, let's go to the new. Remember, if I'm censored or this is blocked, go to my blog. I pledge allegiance to the flag. There's a lot of news. And there's things that, and not only that, the things that are happening in Cuba. Let me go back to Cuba. I wanna post here before I start with the videos. Just information in case anybody wants to donate. Oh, let me furthermore, let me show what I was reading about Jose Marti and what I translated. So I didn't invent this. It wasn't that I invented it. I just translated it. And on the top is what he wrote. Okay, let me put what he wrote, and then let me lower it down so you can see what he wrote. Remember, this is in my blog anyway, so you can compare in the blog. You're going to see a lot better. Okay, this is the one I had for the post in the English section, and then I got you saw another one that was for the Spanish video I'm going to post later on when I do the web streaming in Spanish. Okay. So now we're going to go to the videos. There's a lot. I mean, I got Mark Dice. What I like about Mark Dice is his sense of humor. Just looking at the video and knowing that I'm going to post them makes me laugh. When I see his face, and I start laughing because I know he's gonna make me blow up laughing, because this guy he's just his sense of humor. It's just incredible. Oh, another thing, before I forget, I don't want to forget this. This man is in prison, he's innocent, and he should be freed. I'm talking about, maybe a lot of people, you already know what I'm talking about, is Roger Stones. Roger Stone should be freed from prison. There's no reason on earth why this man should be in prison. I can't understand why, why almost all the Democrats who should be in prison are not in prison. I mean, the whole DNC should be locked up. So let's call and flood this telephone number with calls requesting the freedom of Roger Stone. 202-456-1414. This man is innocent. There's no reason why he should be in prison. He's innocent. He's just a good conservative man with morals. And the Democrats who lost their morals, they don't have any. They hate a person who does have it. Like Donald Trump, who they tried to destroy and they couldn't. Or Mike Flynn, which thank God he was free from prison. Excuse me, one moment. It's my wife calling. I don't know if it's an emergency. Let me try and see what's happening with her. And excuse me, please. I'm sorry for this. Okay. Maybe she knows I'm on the. I'll call. Let me see. It's got to be an emergency because she knows I'm web streaming, and I can't be interrupted. So let me see what's the emergency. It's got to be a hell of an emergency when she calls me. I hope it's nothing bad happening to her. And I'm telling you, please excuse me for this one. Well, like I say, Roger Stone should be freed. There's no reason why he should be in prison. Why is my question? Donald Trump, why is Roger Stone in prison? I mean, he shouldn't even be pardoned. He should be freed and allowed to sue the hell out of the Democrat Party for what they're doing. Okay, maybe she understands that I'm web streaming, and she just made a mistake and punched out my number. So let me go to the news again. Okay, let me go directly now to the news on what's happening. This is from the Religion of Peace. Listen to this carefully. This is in the UK, coming out from the UK. Muslim beats policewoman, punching her so hard that she falls and continue attack as she lies on the ground. Coming out from the Religion of Peace. And if I denounce it or if I present it right here on video, YouTube is threatening me because of community standards that people are complaining about a violation or offended with what I post. Why? Because either they're communists or they're terrorists. They're part of the Islamic terrorist movement. And I offend them, including the communists who are just as terrorists as them. They all get offended because I'm putting out the truth and they don't like it. So that's as simple as that. But I want to keep on doing it. I don't care how many times they threaten me, how many times I'm censored. I don't care. It's not going to stop me. So I really don't know. I can't understand why. Listen to this also. New York mosque still open for daily prayer with churches across the U.S. face mandatory shutdown. The mosque can be open, but the Christian churches have to be closed. This has to stop. This has to stop. This not only has to be stopped, the mosque situation, they should be closed and deported. All of them. All of them. Not one of them should be in the United States unless they convert to Christianity. This is a Christian nation. They don't like it. Leave. They have the ones to assimilate, not us. How dare them disrespect us by coming on and spitting on our faces, let's get them the hell out of here. That's what should be done. They should be deported. I don't care if YouTube or Facebook or whoever censor me. This is the truth. If you don't like it, they should also leave. Now I'm going to go with something here from Mark Dice.
Because of the lockdown, I'm getting fat, and I really need a haircut. But at least I'm not handling it as poorly as Brian Stilter. Not being able to go to the all-you-can-eat buffet for the last month has really gotten him down. So he made an entry in his diary that everyone is talking about. Last night I hit a wall, gutted by the devil, disturbed by the government's shortcomings, and dismayed by political rhetoric that bears no resemblance to reality. Worried about friends who are losing jobs, kids who are missing school, and senior citizens who are living in fear. I crawled into bed and cried for our pre-pandemic lives, tears that had been waiting a month to escape. I wanted to share because it feels freeing to do so. Now is not a time for full invincibility. Journalists are living this and hating this like everybody else. His admission of crawling into bed and crying himself to sleep has made headlines across the country. But I'm not sure why, because that's a typical Friday night for Brian. We've all joked about this for years, the joke, of course, being that it's not a joke, and we all thought it was common knowledge. Then on his weekend show, unironically called Reliable Sources, he elaborated on his feelings. Can I just put that over there? It's okay to not be okay right now. That's the main thing I want to say to everyone watching. It wasn't until this Friday night that I hit a wall. I was supposed to be finishing my nightly newsletter that I mentioned earlier, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it done, and that's when the tears came. I mean, yeah, there were some messages from guys trying to do that performative masculinity thing, saying men shouldn't cry or talk about crying.
Oh, barf. This is a guy who got a special exemption to the government quarantines he so fervently supports for other people. All of us in the media got that exemption, by the way. This is a guy who's working in a high-paying job when tens of millions of Americans are not working at all. Please be quiet. Your tears are not, quote, a big part of the story, and neither are you. For God's sakes, please stop talking about yourself. It is insufferable.
Well, that's a polite way of putting it. I better not say what I actually think, or, well, you know what'll happen. And speaking of censorship, later in his show, he interviewed YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki to see how it was going.
We've actually seen a 75% increase in the news coming from authoritative sources since the beginning of 2020. So we've seen a lot of demand there. But then,
what does that mean? That means an increase in video views for those?
Yeah, and so we talk about that as raising authoritative information. But then we also talk about removing information that is problematic.
There's not enough mainstream media on YouTube, so they boosted it by 75% in the last few months alone. By the way, if you're wondering how this Valley girl was able to become CEO of such a major company, her sister married Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google and the parent company of YouTube, back in 2007. In Monday's video, I joked that Facebook may ban you if you support lifting the lockdown and getting the economy going. Unfortunately, that's no laughing matter because that's exactly what they're doing. But Vox and others are upset that not all posts will be removed, because apparently if you live in a state where some of the social distancing guidelines have been relaxed, then your post may stay up. Vox complains Facebook is taking down some, but not all, quarantine protest pages. And it may not be much longer before they ban Brazil's president for joining the protest. As you know, there's a big debate going on right now about when to start opening restaurants, salons, gyms, and get the economy going again.
Rallies like this one in Orange County are being staged across the country. Some people are fed up with the stay-at-home orders and dismissing social distancing guidelines.
Democrats are obviously hoping to keep the economy stalling as long as possible and don't want the pandemic to end until after the election. That way they can continue to try to blame all of the country's problems on President Trump. Of course, the fastest way President Trump could begin opening up America again would be to announce that he wants to keep everything closed for the next year. Democrats would then hit the streets demanding an end to the social distancing and the lockdown the very next day. And by the way, I'm having a social distancing special where you can get free shipping on anything from markdice.com if you use the promo code WINNING at the checkout. So if you want to get yourself a Trump is Growing Stronger shirt, a Trump Thug Life shirt, a Trump is Building the Wall shirt, or any of my awesome designs, head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below. Enter the promo code WINNING at the checkout and check them out.
He's great. He's just, his humor, sense of humor is great. I can't stop laughing every time I hear some of the things he's had to say. Okay, let's go to the next one here. CNN reporter witness to Don Lemon after Trump is trolling. Okay, let me take. Okay. I'm just trying to get the most striking of these videos. Okay, let's see what let's see how long this one lasts. Okay.
Can some of these state lockdown measures go too far? Well, in a dozen states and cities across the country with these protests, they say, they have, and they want to get back to doing what they want to do. But no less than the Attorney General of the United States says that some states do indeed go too far, and he can picture taking legal action against them if they don't change their ways. Whatever that means. Andy McCarthy is the former assistant U.S. attorney. Again, interpreting what he said is risky for me. I'm no lawyer, and you're a great one. Is he saying that if governors add on or do things that go beyond what they originally intended, is he focusing on those or what?
Neil, what he's saying is that when the government regulates your fundamental rights, which include your right of free association, free exercise of religion, your right to work in many ways, they have to narrowly tailor their restrictions so that it's the least restrictive way of burdening your fundamental right. And the Justice Department has already intervened in a case in Greenville, Mississippi, on behalf of religious believers who were being denied the right to do communal observance of Easter. So it's not like this is a threat in the air. This is something they've already done. And I think the most important thing he said, Neil, especially for what you've been covering today, is it's not your burden as an American to show that your job is essential. It's their burden, that is the government's burden, to show that your job can't be operated safely before they can shut it down. And as we move to this phase one, I think that's going to be very important.
But a lot of these governors were led no less by the President of the United States, who recommended these, stay-at-home provisions, not as, robustly as some of the governors. I grant you. Argue it is our job to kind of keep you safe and not put you in harm's way or risk your life or others. So when these protesters gather and in crowds and the rest, are they actually doing a disservice to their very protest? And what is a governor's responsibility there?
Yeah, well, the thing is, Neil, they have multiple responsibilities. One interest that the state has is public health. The other interest the state has, or another interest, the main reason the state was created, was to protect the liberties and the fundamental freedoms of Americans. And those things clash. I think what the Attorney General is saying is, at the first phase of a crisis, it makes every bit of good sense to ratchet up the restrictions so we can get our arms around what we're dealing with. But you continually have an obligation to tailor the restrictions down as you move from phase to phase. And what he's saying is we're now moving from the bend the curve phase to the reopening the economy phase. You're still going to have this clash of rights, but the government has to tailor their restrictions down.
But they're also risking potential lives or spiking cases. And I know this is something that, the framers of the Constitution could never have envisioned. I get that. But where do you balance that off between life and livelihood?
Yeah, well, what he said, and I think this is right, Neil, is that it's the nature of executive power that They have a lot of power in order to restrict where it's necessary to restrict on behalf of public health, but it's also flexible federal power, and it's flexible executive power between the states and the federal government. And the idea is that there's no magic formula because the situation is dynamic, and a good executive has to continually react to the changing conditions and the changing goals. If they have tamped down here, if they have bent the curve, and we're going to try to reopen the economy, they have to regulate with that in the front of their minds.
With that improvement and that curve and clear proof of that. Now, the discrepancy seems to be, thank you very, very much, is how long that curve has to last.
Okay, it's over. Let's go to the next one. Let me see if I can get Dr. Stevens, who's great also. Oh, wait a minute. Peak liberalism. Let me see this one. Oh, wait a minute. I did this another one, which is just as great and a lot better. AOC, okay, this is it. For Next News Network. It's about AOC. She doesn't hit one positive point. I mean, she's.
One of my favorite things about this job is watching the radical left expose themselves. One of those individuals, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, every time she opens her mouth, she reveals just how much of a communist that she actually is. This time, she's caught spreading communist BS. And wait till you see how she just praised the end of our economy. Does she live here too? I mean, is she also like among us? But she wants to see America fail? So sad. I'm gonna get into the details.
She said,
But first,
none of
if
the
this is your
communists
first
are
time
patriots.
visiting the
Look
Next
at Bernie
News
Sanders the
Network,
same
and you
way.
like our reports, you like my commentaries, please consider hitting the red subscribe button down below, then hit that notification bell. This story from the Gateway pundit Christina Layla reports that the communist representative comrade Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, well, in a tweet, she celebrated the oil crash, which can lead to massive job loss. Yeah, it says right there. She deletes a tweet calling for a communist revolution, celebrating the destruction of the U.S. economy. This is where we are, folks, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
All communists are the same.
Contract for U.S. crude dropped over 100% on Monday as demand for oil dropped amid the CV crisis. The Democrat media complex is using CV as a vehicle to usher in socialist policies. AOC celebrated American workers losing their jobs and said, quote, "You absolutely love to see it. This, along with record low interest rates, means it's the right time for a worker-led mass investment in green infrastructure to save our planet." Cough. Yeah, and then she deleted the tweet. She deleted it. She panicked after getting called out for celebrating the loss of jobs while calling for a communist revolution. Yeah. One Twitter user wrote, AOC celebrated today's oil crash, which will lead to hundreds of thousands of lost jobs. AOC doesn't care about workers. She's never
like
did.
Pelosi.
All she cares
doesn't
about is
care.
herself and her pathetic Green New Deal. She deleted it.
She's just as
Of
evil.
course, but the internet is forever. Judicial Watch boss Tom Fitton also called out AOC, typing, "Socialist celebrates destruction of U.S. economy and resulting collapse in demand in oil, calls for a communist revolution."
Just like Pelosi.
And then he says, look, looks like AOC deleted the tweet.
Just like Bernie. Just like all the
So
Democrats.
when you see these things happening,
Who have
it's
turned
always
communist.
a good sign because their masks are coming off. We can see who they really are, what their true agenda is when they celebrate the destruction of the country that she was voted by her people to represent. Absolutely shameful, but we thank you for typing what you did because now we know the real you. Comment below. We'll see you at the next report for the Next
Let's go
News
to the next
Network.
one.
I'm Gary Franchi.
Once it's I find out. There's a whole bunch. I'm not going to put all of them. There's more. There's more to hear. Let me see if I can find I'm not somewhere here. I got Stevens, Dr. Stevens. Okay, I think it's this one. Oh, yep, I hit it.
The mainstream media is imploding as their outlets are suffering the single worst job
Thank God.
losses ever. That's right. It's a stunning development in the midst of this whole coronavirus that the media outlets you would think we would be turning to most during this crisis are the ones that are beginning to implode. So we're going to look at some of the numbers here, which are pretty astonishing. And then we're going to see a very delicious irony in the midst of all this. An irony of ironies, I think, is going to absolutely make your day. You're going to love it. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you. As always, if you're looking for a daily white pill of encouragement to help you counter all the ridiculous fake news that's out there from the corporatist globalist media, well, you have found your oasis. We analyze current events, analyze some super awesome conservative trends so you can live in the present light of even better things to come. So you know what to do. If you haven't already done so, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. This is your daily white pill of encouragement and unshakable optimism. Now, before we get into the whole fall of the mainstream media here, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video. And that is the makers of this little device. It's called the 6-in-1 Patriot Charger. And it's no exaggeration to say that this may indeed be a lifesaver. It features a powerful window breaker and seatbelt cutter to free yourself from your car in an emergency situation like being trapped in water. It's got a powerful red flashing light to signal for help if your vehicle is stranded. It has a powerful 4-hour ultra bright LED light, and it's always within reach because it plugs right in your car's cigarette lighter outlet. Best of all, if you use the promo code TURLEY15, you'll get a 15% discount. So what could be better? So don't wait another minute. Click on the link below. Get your own 6-in-1 Patriot Charger today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Amazing stuff here. We live in extraordinary times. So yeah, I don't think any of us would take issue with that. But one of the more extraordinary things we may never have guessed at is how the coronavirus epidemic would be the occasion for the implosion of the mainstream media. But that's precisely what appears to be happening here, is detailed by the king of the mainstream Marxist media itself, the New York Times. They turned a lot of heads a few days back when they published their findings on the amount of job losses suffered by those who work in mainstream news media outlets. According to the Times, more than 33,000 news professionals have either been furloughed, have lost their jobs, or have had their pay reduced since the beginning of the economic lockdown brought about by the pandemic. According to the chief economist at Indeed.com, new listings for jobs in the media have fallen 35% in 60 days before April 3rd, as compared to the same time period last year. He also compared as well to the overall drop in job offerings, which has been around 24% overall, which indicates the news media has been hit exceptionally hard. Now, this news is coming out around the same time that NPR, National Public Radio, had to announce that they'll be slashing executive pay as their company faces massive revenue losses as a result of advertising drying up throughout this coronavirus pandemic. Now, what's so interesting is that this New York Times piece recognizes that this free fall and loss of media jobs didn't start with the pandemic. We have to realize that this process of the mainstream media shutting down, as it were, has been going on for some time now, long before the pandemic. The Pew Research Center reported a study just the other day that found that the United States newspapers have shed half of their employees, half of their newsrooms since 2008. Indeed, we've done videos on this before. Newspaper circulation today here in the United States is at its lowest it's been since the 1940s. We talked about this as well. Business Insider reported that the number of layoffs in the mainstream media for the year 2019 hit upwards of 8,000. The number of media jobs that were slashed in 2019 were more than the total lost media jobs during the period of time between 2014 and 2017. Among the victims, CNN, they lost 100 jobs. BuzzFeed slashed 200. Vice Media lost 265 jobs. NBC slashed over 80 jobs. We could go on and on. Huffington Post is falling apart. It's on life support. And so what's happened is that this coronavirus pandemic is only intensifying. It's exasperating or hastening these trends. Now, here, of course, is the extraordinary irony in all of this. The mainstream Marxist media has from the very beginning been rooting for this pandemic as the way they were finally going to destroy the Trump presidency. What the Russian collusion conspiracy, which of course they fabricated, was a fabrication of the media in conjunction with the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign. What the Russian collusion conspiracy failed to do, what the Ukrainian transcript and the media-led impeachment circus failed to do, this media-led Chinese propaganda that Trump is to blame for the coronavirus, this blame Trump not China chorus, will finally, according to them, accomplish what the media-driven attempts have thus far failed to do, which is to remove Trump from office, the single most dangerous man to ever occupy the White House. And so the mainstream media has been, in many respects, I think we could say, cheerleaders for this virus. Our good friend Carrie Lutz over at Financial Survival Network points out that the New York Times has consistently been slow to update the peak rates and the decreasing rates of infections. They make it look as if the infection rates are continuing to rise. And keep in mind, this is all after the mainstream media told us there was nothing to fear from what they at the time repeatedly referred to as either the Wuhan virus or the Chinese virus. Do you remember that? All throughout January, well into February, they were telling us there was nothing to see here. Remember the first weeks of February? They were still dominated by the media's obsession with Trump's impeachment, with the Senate trial only wrapping up in February. Now, this new obsession with the death and dismay caused by the coronavirus has appeared only after weeks of ambivalence towards it, and I wonder why. What caught the media's attention? Could it be that this coronavirus could possibly be turned into Trump's Hurricane Katrina moment? Could this be the final thing that could topple the Trump presidency? I think that's why the media is fixated on. They want to destroy Trump. And yet, note the profound irony. What's so ironic about this whole situation is that in getting what they wanted, in getting this major pandemic that could sink the presidency of Trump, what happened? All this pandemic is actually doing is destroying the mainstream media. All the pandemic is actually doing, in the context of what we're talking about here, all the pandemic is actually doing is causing upwards of 33,000 media workers either to have been laid off, furloughed, or had their pay cut. I mean, just think about that. And this is happening all the while Trump's approval numbers remain stubbornly supportive of how he's handling the virus. I mean, he actually hit a 60% job approval rating in the last major Gallup poll findings. He's positioned himself effectively as a wartime president. And again, as we featured in yesterday's video, the political scientist Helmut Norpoth of Stony Brook University, he's noted that wartime presidents almost always go on to get reelected quite comfortably. Would that not be the irony of ironies? On November 4th, 2020, the day after the presidential election, would it not be ironic to see President Trump standing there, reelected, with his job still intact, in front of all these left-wing activists disguised as journalists who've been seeing their jobs more and more disappearing forever? Would that not be the irony of ironies? Here they were wishing for a pandemic to result in Trump losing his job, and in the end, all the pandemic did was to result in the loss of their own jobs. Now, before you go, you definitely want to check out my video I just uploaded on Trump suspending all immigration to the United States. It's an absolutely bold and magnificent move on his part. And get this, 80% of the public supports it. You'd absolutely love it. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. Got it.
He's great. Another great source of information, Dr. Stevens. Recommend. Let me see if I can get another one here. Okay. I think it's almost over here. There's more, but I just, history means, okay. Reaction to Trump. Oh, wow. Let's do this one. Oh, no. Yeah. Let's see if this one is short. Oh, yeah.
Many on the left are
It's not
not
too long.
happy with President Trump's plan to put a 60-day pause on legal immigration. Critics claiming
About
the
immigration.
president is just playing politics and that the move is dangerous. But Trump says he's doing it to help the economy. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi.
I'm not a fanatic of Juan Williams. I think he's a traitor.
He's a poor leader. He ignores his own responsibility and assigns blame instead of taking responsibility, paying attention to science, recognizing the role of governance in all of this to get the job done for the American people. And so he's engaged in distractions like immigration, distractions like supporting people in the street. They're all distractions away from the known fact that he's a total failure when it comes to testing.
And former presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke, he had this angry response. Quote, who the blank do you think is working on the farms and the feedlots, in the packing houses and processing plants at a time where we are struggling to feed ourselves? Who's in the kitchen? Who's picking, preparing, serving the food we eat, and cleaning up afterwards? Greg, I wanted to start with you and just, I know you're always attentive to how these political things work. And I thought I had about this was, I wonder if the president is baiting his critics on the left, because he makes a bold statement about shutting down immigration. But then when you look at the details say, oh, he's just suspending it even for people who are applying for permanent green cards for 60 days. And there's an exception for people in so many guest worker industries. So it's not that huge a change from where we are right now.
Yeah, so it's not too bad. I think you're right, though, in the sense that he knows exactly how the left reacts, right? If Trump cured cancer, the New York Times headline would read, Trump cures cancer, a common illness among white nationalists. So so he knew this would happen. And it is hard. It is funny when you call something racist when it benefits minorities job-wise. It's like so he's pretty smart, and he's kind of put Biden in a box on this one, because how is Biden going to respond to this? Remember, he called it racist when he shut down travel. So what's he going to do now? Because then he had to change his mind. So I think it's exactly what you said. It's a moderate response, and it's a smart response. You don't allow walk-ons if all the positions on your team can be fulfilled by your players. So we don't need walk-ons right now. A baseball analogy.
Jesse, the Wall Street Journal. I heard you. Okay. Put me in, coach. Jesse, the Wall Street Journal called this move by the president on immigration suspension a political distraction. And they pointed out that before the coronavirus, we had historic low unemployment. Well, if illegal immigrants or any kind of immigrant was taking away jobs, how is it that so many jobs were open just a few weeks ago?
Are you kidding me, Juan? 20 million Americans just lost their jobs in 4 weeks. So when the economy comes back, you want Americans first in line. I guess these leftists want Americans second in line behind foreign nationals. It makes no sense to me. This is a no-brainer. Let's just take Nancy Pelosi for a second. She must have a brain freeze from all that pricey ice cream, because science has driven every single decision here. Yes. Science was the one that shut down travel from China and Europe. Science was the thing that shut down the U.S. economy. If she thinks Donald Trump shut down the greatest economy in the world, an economy that was going to win him re-election because of politics, then Donald Trump must be the dumbest politician in America besides Beto O'Rourke. Because here's the situation, Nancy, who's living in a quarantine in her mansion overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Would she right now open her door to a stranger, a foreign national, who she doesn't know where they came from, if they've been quarantined, if they've been tested? No! Why, Nance? Because science tells you don't do that. So why should America do that now? And it's like I said, it's economics. Juan, economics 101. And if they want to run on open borders and foreign labor, be my guest. She's going to lose her gavel, just like she's losing her mind.
Well, I was talking about the Wall Street Journal, which is a pretty conservative editorial page. And Dana, here's what the Journal said. They said, the economic evidence points to immigration helping with recovery, helping with growth. And others have pointed out that it's something like 16% of our doctors and healthcare workers are immigrants.
And that's why I think that, you know, he is vague purposely, I guess, when he does the initial tweet. But then when you actually get to the end of it, you find out that it's actually a very, I wouldn't even say it's moderate, I'd say it's pretty mild to have a pause for 60 days. And there's carve outs for farm workers and healthcare workers. There's probably at the end of this will be engineers, et cetera, because it is true. We know that America is fueled by entrepreneurship, and a lot of those entrepreneurs are immigrants. I mean, we have that in our own family's history on this show. So I think that you fool me once when you react so aggressively to one of the president's vague tweets, and then I guess, you know, it's his communication style. And then you wait and you find out that the policy is really not that different. And so if you're Joe Biden, you really are in a box, because if you react to the initial tweet and you have that, you're going to have to pay for until the election, and then you actually get to the policy and you're like, oh, I actually agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of curious. So, Judge, there's no evidence that immigration is associated with the spread of the virus. Can you agree to that much?
Well, I don't know if we know enough, right? Aren't we a country that is now relying on studies and science? And I don't think anyone's capable of answering that. But I think the important point here is that when the economy does come back, a lot of these businesses, you know, the 22 million Americans who are out of work, and I'm sure it's going up again at the end of the week, they're not going to have a business to go back to. And that's between them and someone coming in from another country to get that job, whatever that number is, however small people may think that this change is, according to the president's order here, it's significant to American families. And in the end, that's he's the president of the United States for Americans. And the more that Joe Biden starts talking about immigration, the more he goes down into the rabbit hole. Because he's got to remember, he's running to be president of the United States, no other country. And it's going to bite him in the butt, I think. But that's just me.
Well, this is it. Let's see if I can get anything else. This will be it for today. Like I say, if you want to hear more, there's more. There's a lot more. Go to my blog. I pledge allegiance to the flag, and there you can hear more about what's happening. There's a lot. There's more videos on the Next News Network, but like I say, it's just a lot of them. So I'm going to end this for now. And like I always say, Donald Trump, I always pray for you and your family. God bless you. You're doing a great job. Also, Mike Pence, another great man. I also pray for you and your family. I pray for my whole country. I always say to God, God bless the United States eternally, including our military. And as a member of the DAV, Disabled American Veterans of what I'm a member of Chapter 11, I also pray for them and their families. So God bless you all. God, please, I always pray too also for the freedom of Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, North Korea, China, and Vietnam, of this hellish precept nightmare, which is called communism. So God bless you all, and see you next time. Bye-bye.